Stephaun Wallace with the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. And we're here to talk about intersections, and specifically the intersections of all of our lives with science and the myriad of ways that we are impacted by science and we engage in science. Stay tuned as I speak with a host of community leaders, advocates, and scientists as we dive deeper into their intersections.
My name is Harold Phillips, and I am the director for the White House Office of National AIDS Policy. So as the senior advisor to President Biden for HIV policy, really helping shape the administration's approach to ending the HIV epidemic, as well as redoing the national HIV/AIDS strategy, which President Biden released on World AIDS Day, which will help guide the entire nation toward the work that we need to do. And I think rightly so, sort of the intersection of HIV, STI, viral hepatitis, mental and behavioral health.
So many people may not know, but your work intersects with science as well as policy. Can you describe some of the ways that it does?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I'm really excited about with this new national HIV/AIDS strategy is that research and science is more incorporated into the document itself. In each of the objectives and goals and strategies, there includes the research agenda. And so the strategy itself is informed by the work of NIH, which then sort of looks at both its approach to research, its funding priorities, and uses the national HIV/AIDS strategy and our overall surveillance data to help guide NIH's portfolio of work.
And how long have you been involved in HIV and public health?
Oh God. I've been involved in HIV work since 1992. I started as an intern for the North Carolina Department of Health. And in 1992, the federal government had just started the Housing Opportunities for People with AIDS program. The funding was coming to the North Carolina Department of Health. I was in school studying community development and urban planning, and happened to write a paper on the state of HIV housing in North Carolina. In the early 90s, people were returning to North Carolina from big urban centers like Atlanta and DC. And basically, this was before antiretroviral therapy. So people were returning home to die. They were also having to make tough decisions between paying rent, paying a mortgage, or paying for medications. So the paper got the attention of the State Department of Health. HUD was sending millions of dollars to the health department that knew nothing about housing. And they hired me as an intern to help craft the HOPWA program. And that's how I got started in doing HIV work, and haven't looked back ever since.
What keeps you motivated? What keeps you inspired?
I think what keeps me motivated and inspired is that I know our work is making a difference and it's impacting lives. One of the things that I used to do a lot, especially pre-pandemic, and I'm looking forward to doing again, is really getting out in the community and meeting with individuals, communities, and families, and individuals who would talk about the impact of the Ryan White program or SAMHSA's programs and how it really changed their lives.
Can you talk a little bit about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted you personally and professionally?
Yeah, so a lot of things got sort of delayed. We saw public health staff deployed to COVID. Even at the federal level, we saw that happen a lot. As we had to step up and sort of figure out this new infectious disease, then figure out how to protect communities, how to inform communities, and at the same time battling issues like misinformation about COVID. And we also saw many of our frontline workers who had been doing HIV work now being called to do COVID work as well. So it had a huge impact on us figuring out how do you even go forward? and also monitoring COVID-19 as it sort of swept across the country. Sort of how do you strike that right tone and balance between the continuing effort to address HIV within our communities and the intersection of COVID? You know, personally, it was both frightening and terrifying as a person living with HIV. Now here's this new infectious disease and having to figure out, like, you know, I've been living with HIV for about 15 years now. I got that under control. Now there's this new thing that I have to figure out how to battle against it and live. Also, being here in DC, much of my family is in Chicago. So not being able to travel and see them and having, I'm gonna say it, elderly parents. Dad is 76 and retired at the same time that COVID hit in March. He retired at the end of March. And so having to manage them and make sure they were informed and in safe, long distance, and not being able to get to them also had a huge, huge impact. And then I think, like all of us, sort of the trauma of having to go through it all was at times seemed overwhelming. I remember when my mother got the vaccine, I remember standing in my kitchen, and when she said, "I got my vaccine today," I just burst out in tears because I felt like, okay, she's gonna make it. And I think I'm not alone in that many folks across the country had similar experiences of trying to deal with it. I think the impact of COVID and the residual trauma of it is gonna be with us for a while as we try to figure out what is the new normal and how do we deal with some of these things. A lot of people were isolated. There was a lot of depression going on. And I think we're still sort of seeing and feeling some of both the physical and the mental health impacts. I won't even talk about the weight gain because there was some baking going on. There was some cocktails going on almost every night. It was a time where it was just like, if I wanted it, I was gonna eat it.
Coping.
Exactly.
You mentioned how this personally impacts you in the intersection of being a person living with HIV as well as this new respiratory virus to contend with that's spreading across communities and the country really quickly, and the importance of your family being vaccinated. Can you say a little bit more about why do you think vaccination is important?
Vaccination is important because I think, like many of the scientists have said, it's our best tool to prevent both death and serious illness when it comes to COVID-19. Not only getting the initial vaccination, but also the booster right now. You know, I've been a big proponent for years and pushing in my family that folks get an annual flu shot. So I'm hoping that as we sort of evolve with the COVID vaccine, it will be just as common and readily available as the flu shot. Within my own family, and this gets to I think some of the disparity issues. We experienced a loss due to COVID. My sister's husband's brother, so her brother-in-law, passed away due to COVID. He had actually gone to hospital. They told him it was walking pneumonia, sent him home. He had issues of medical mistrust in the first place, didn't necessarily want to be in the hospital, didn't want to be in the emergency room. They told him to go home. My sister, who's studying to be a nurse, she and I remember being on the phone that weekend and saying, no, he needs to go. We recommended he go to a downtown hospital or he go to a north side hospital, not the hospital he went to on the south side, which is in the Black community, because both of us were saying, this sounds like COVID based on the symptoms. And within 2 days, he died. So the power of the vaccine and the knowledge about vaccine and what it does, and the fact that there is a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of medical mistrust in our community.
We're still 40 years into a disease that many people have been fighting for quite some time. And I guess the question that I have for you is there a role that HIV vaccines can play in responding to the other pandemic? And what do you think are some of the important considerations around an HIV vaccine?
So, I think something that I think doesn't get enough airtime is the fact that one of the reasons we were able to so quickly come up with a COVID-19 vaccine is built on the back of years of HIV vaccine research. I've been told that in doing that and going down that path of figuring out COVID-19 and it being built on the back of HIV vaccine research, that there was also a lot of information that now I think will help us in our search for an HIV vaccine as well.
Thank you for giving us this time, your time, and sharing so much of yourself during this process. And I look forward to continue working with you and connecting with you.
Same here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for watching this episode of Intersections. For more information on additional episodes, education, and the work of the HVTN, please follow us on all major social channels under @HelpEndHIV. Also, to learn more about being a volunteer for an HIV vaccine study, please visit helpendhiv.org. Thank you.